Hi, it's Katrina. Once upon a time, a civilization grew to be so powerful that it wrapped itself around the world, spreading to every corner of the globe. And then it was destroyed. Now, pieces of it keep popping up in unexpected places. Hope you're comfy because here is a wild ride into prehistory you didn't know you needed. Not built by humans? Scientists have found a structure in Japan that is so odd, they claim that humans couldn't have built it. Welcome to the Oya Stone Quarry in Tochigi Prefecture. It's a megalithic monster of a site that defies logic, reason, and quite possibly the laws of physics. This isn't just a pit in the earth. It is an underground labyrinth of caverns that could swallow a stadium. It is thousands of square feet carved into volcanic rock. But here's the mystery. It is tens of thousands of years old, built at a time when humans were still trying to figure out fire and pointy sticks. I want to know how ancient people with no bulldozers, no power tools, and definitely no laser cutters built something that would stump even modern engineers. It makes no sense that Stone Age humans did this. So maybe they didn't. Maybe the Oya Stone Quarry was the work of an older, much more sophisticated culture that lived before modern humans. The ancient builders crafted massive symmetrical chambers, perfectly cut walls, and vast stone halls that seem to echo with forgotten secrets. This isn't the work of a few sweaty villagers with chisels. This looks like it was designed by a civilization that could build underground cities the Minotaur would be impressed by. Let's talk about Oya Stone, the VIP of this mystery. It is soft and workable when it's first mined, but then it hardens like concrete once it's exposed to air. It was prized by emperors, architects, and shrine builders, especially during Japan's Heian period of 794 to 1185 AD. Some experts even believe the imperial family personally funded the original quarry so that they had unlimited access to the coveted Oya stone. Other researchers suspect the imperial family merely picked up where the ancients left off. This quarry might be so ancient, it predates the great flood myths found in cultures all around the world, including the Bible. Because even today, with all our tech, engineers say recreating the Oya Quarry's scale and precision would be insanely difficult, if not downright impossible. Some of the gigantic pillars look like they were 3D printed by time travelers. The walls are so cleanly cut, it's like they were lasered into shape. The chambers twist and connect like something out of an Escher drawing. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the Oya Quarry, it seems, is an impossibility. Unless, that is, Japan's ancient ancestors had superhuman strength. Assuming they didn't, who is responsible for this place? Ancient stonemasons? A lost civilization? Visitors from way out of town? Nobody knows, but you can investigate for yourself if you're feeling up to it. You can explore the Oya History Museum, which doubles as a preserved section of the quarry. You enter through a humble door at the base of a hill, but the second you descend the spiral staircase, boom! You are 100 feet underground, walking through echoing stone corridors, surrounded by towering walls. It feels less like a museum and more like the hidden lair of an ancient civilization that didn't want to be found. Inside, there are tools, relics, and artifacts showing just how long and how deeply humanity has been mining this mystical stone. But even with the evidence laid out in glass cases, the big questions still loom larger than the quarry walls themselves. Is cuneiform really the oldest writing in the world? History is about to be rewritten, and it starts with the oldest language on Earth. Long before humans carved gods into stone or encoded royal decrees in clay, something extraordinary was happening in the misty valleys of southeastern Europe. You may have heard that Sumerian cuneiform is the oldest written language ever, but that might not be true. 7,500 years ago, on the banks of the Danube River, a civilization emerged that was far ahead of its time. Everywhere else in the world, as far as history is concerned, people were still shambling around in the darkness of the Stone Age. But here, humans were using a language even older than cuneiform. At least, scientists think they were. And if it turns out to be true, everything you thought you knew about the origins of writing, language, and civilization will need to be rebooted harder than your grandma's old PC. Let's dig right into the meat of this thing. The culture responsible for inventing this prehistoric language is known simply as the Danube Valley Civilization. The Danube Valley Civilization knew how to make copper tools. They built two-story houses like ancient duplexes. They even had their own handmade chairs, like something off an HGTV DIY special. They spun and wove fabrics, worked leather, crafted pottery, and invented the wheel. Yes, the wheel. That elusive circle that not even the Mesopotamians figured out. The Sumerians did so much and advanced so many systems, but they never did master the spinning circle. Scientists now believe it was some random genius near modern-day Romania that had the eureka moment that spawned the wheel. It's not 100% confirmed, but it is looking highly probable. The most impressive part of the Danube Valley civilization is their mysterious language. Among their countless artifacts are thousands of tiny, intricate symbols. There are so many of these glyphs, some experts believe they represent the oldest written language in the world. Do you know what this means? It means that the cradle of civilization isn't in Mesopotamia. It's not in Africa. It's in the Balkans, of all places. Now let me introduce you to the guy at the forefront of this cryptic investigation. His name is Harold Harmon, linguistic expert, ancient script whisperer, and vice president of the Institute of Archaeomythology. I didn't know that was a thing. Harmon is the guy who looked at these symbols, which are known as the Vinca script, and saw meaning. According to Harmon, the symbols appear across a wide swath of territory, from northern Greece to Slovakia, which kind of supports the idea that it could have belonged to a global culture. Naturally, the skeptics have come charging out of the woodwork. Most mainstream scholars in Mesopotamian studies aren't buying it at all. Some claim the symbols are decorative. Others argue they must have been copied from Mesopotamian cultures. But that's a bit awkward considering some Danube artifacts are older than their Mesopotamian counterparts. Here's a spicy little detail that most people don't know. The Vinca symbols include over 700 distinct characters. That is roughly the same number of characters found in Egyptian hieroglyphs. Coincidence? Or evidence that the Egyptians were influenced by this OG script? What do you think? And now for a quick break because it's shout-out time. I want to give a big thank you to Eric Tukonassis and the Scarlet Bandit for supporting this channel. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. We post every day. Aliens are in your DNA. Aliens are in your blood, and they've been there for a very long time. Pieces of non-human DNA have been uncovered in the human genome. You might have a little more in common with ET than you thought. Let's talk about the human genome for a second. Your genome is the holy scroll of you, the thing that makes you who you are on a genetic level. You can think of your genome like a map of every single atom that makes up your mind and your body. Inside your genome, sitting cozy within your double helix between the bits that decide your eye color, is a smuggled stash of viral party crashers. 19 new strands of non-human DNA have been discovered tangled up in the human genome like glitter after a music festival. These new non-human fragments are on top of the viral fragments that scientists already knew about. Altogether, a solid 8% of your DNA is made up of ancient viruses that infected your ancestors and then never left. Like that one guy at a party who moves in and starts paying rent. But hold up, some suspect there is more to this discovery than scientists are admitting. Some are thinking that these non-human fragments could have something to do with aliens. This bombshell comes from a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, where researchers went full Sherlock Holmes on the genetic code of 2,500 people from around the globe. Like DNA bingo, they compared each individual's genome to a standardized reference model and started circling the viral fingerprints hiding in the margins. What they found were 19 new HERVs, human endogenous retroviruses. These are basically the ghostly echoes of viruses that infected our ancestors over hundreds of thousands of years. And they left their mark in our DNA and became part of the family. Great. Like sentient parasites turned permanent roommates, possibly dangerous roommates. One of these HERVs is a fully intact provirus, meaning it has all the genetic instructions to potentially act like a real functioning virus. Out of the 2,500 people studied, about 2% had this complete viral relic in their genome. Virologist John Coffin of Tufts University said, "This one looks like it is capable of making an infectious virus." What that means is that potentially This thing is a time-traveling virus waiting to unleash death and destruction on our whole population. Can't we stop it with the pandemics already? I'm still not over the last one. Before you start Googling how to delete DNA, take a deep breath. Not all of these viral remnants are up to no good. In fact, some have been domesticated by our bodies. So back to that initial idea about aliens in your blood. I know that's why you're here in the first place. Here's a cool fact about the human genome. It only contains about 1.5% uniquely human DNA. Less than 2% of all our DNA is unique to Homo sapiens. The rest can be found in monkeys and apparently ancient viruses. Some suspect that human DNA has itty-bitty peats of alien DNA in it. Scientists have even suggested that humans originated from cosmic genes that fell to Earth billions of years ago. And recently, evidence of an unknown human species was found within our DNA. Scientists simply don't know every last secret held within our DNA strands. But with the discovery of these 19 non-human genes, it's becoming clear that we are made up of more than just blood and bone. Global civilization? Heck, humans may have come from an intergalactic civilization that seeded this very planet. You have never seen this rock art. Where the Caucasus Mountains hit the Caspian Sea, ancient humans left behind a gallery of secrets carved in stone. Welcome to Gobustan, Azerbaijan's jaw-dropping open-air museum, where the rocks are telling stories that predate writing, kingdoms, and your entire family tree. Gobustan National Historic Artistic Natural Reserve is not your average historical site. It is a prehistoric display of human expression, spirituality, survival, and possibly interstellar communication. This place is home to over 6,000 rock engravings, etched across jagged stone like ancient tweets that no one ever deleted. Can you guess how old they are? Are you thinking maybe 2,000 years? Prepare to pick your jaw up off the floor because these carvings stretch back 40,000 years. They were created when humans were still knocking boots with Neanderthals and people had mammoth pets. Not really mammoth pets, but you know what I mean. The images cover everything from hunting scenes to fertility rituals to what suspiciously looks like a solar-powered boat. Try to explain that one to mainstream scientists. Discovered in the 1930s, Gobustan's rock art is a collection of messages carved by early humans trying to document their lives and perhaps impress the tribe next door. That's what most scholars think. But there is a little wiggle room in the explanation. The fact that solar boats appear to be carved in the rock is a major red flag. According to every history book in North America, people weren't building boats 40,000 years ago, which means that these images are either of an alien Uber or the history books are wrong. Do you know what else humans weren't supposed to be doing 40,000 years ago? Practicing organized religion. But in the Mother's Cave, there is direct evidence of goddess worship. The cave is named after the abundance of female silhouettes carved into the stone. These silhouettes appear to be part of a very, very old fertility cult, possibly some religion centered on femininity and a mother goddess. Clearly, people were not dumb 40,000 years ago. They had religion, they made tools, they apparently sailed ships. They even drew a scene in the Cave of the Bulls showing two goats going head-to-head in what might be the world's oldest documented fight club. You can't help but feel like the secret to the ancient wisdom held by these prehistoric humans is hidden within the Gobustan rock art. Secrets that could expose a worldwide civilization with roots going back to the days of Neanderthals. Voynich Manuscript Deciphered? What if the most baffling book in history is actually a medieval sex manual? For 600 years, the Voynich Manuscript whispered secrets in a language no one can read. Only now are its secrets beginning to come to light. And guess what? Turns out this medieval mystery might just have some extreme adult themes. For those new to the Voynich Manuscript, let me give you a quick recap. Hidden deep in the vaults of Yale's rare book and manuscript library sits this bizarre, beautiful book. It is 240 pages of flowing script, zodiac signs, herbal doodles, and nude women chilling in green and blue fluids like some sort of spa-themed fever dream. The book is incredibly weird. It is filled with a script that no one has been able to decipher in 6 centuries. Scholars have been obsessing over who wrote it, what the book is about, and where it even came from. Some think the Voynich Manuscript is a medieval prank, but that feels kind of silly. The Middle Ages wasn't exactly a time for pranks. And when you see page after page of mystical writing and magical images, you don't get the sense that someone was doing it as a gag. This book is the real deal. The manuscript's most elaborate diagram is known as the rosettes. It's a sprawling illustration with 9 large circles connected by a network of tubes, spirals, and castle walls. It looks kind of like a Renaissance subway map at first glance. Researchers Zachary T. and Michelle Lewis became a little too obsessed with this image and started studying it. They looked at it through the eyes of a rather unexpected kind of person, which is to say, a medieval gynecologist. In the 1400s, European physicians believed that the uterus had 7 chambers, and that women had both internal and external openings. Don't shoot the messenger here. I know it's not true, but doctors 600 years ago didn't know what was going on with women's bodies. According to Zachary and Michelle, the central circle in the rosettes represents the outer part of a woman's reproductive organ, while the top circle represents the inner canal, and the others map out the internal reproductive system. Without turning this into a biology class, the team basically concluded the diagram is an image of a woman's reproductive system. They deduced from this that the whole book is about reproduction. Cool theory, right? But not everyone is buying it. After all, why write a sex ed manual in a cipher only Da Vinci's evil twin could decode? The Lewis team's current theory involves Johann Hartlieb, a 15th century Bavarian physician who believed that women's secrets should be locked away. He used encrypted alphabets to hide recipes for contraception, abortion, and libido enhancers so thoroughly that he could hardly crack his own code. Hartlieb feared that if regular women, and by regular I mean peasants, got their hands on this knowledge, it would lead to chaos. He didn't believe that women could be trusted with the wisdom of how their own bodies work. And so, someone who wanted to gatekeep biology created the Voynich Manuscript, encrypting perfectly natural feminine information behind the most baffling codex in the world. But this is only a theory. There are plenty of others, so let me know your thoughts. The Lost Highway Beneath the Waves. You won't believe what they found. Off the sparkling coast of Croatia, beneath 16 feet of seawater and centuries of muck, an ancient road slept silently, forgotten by time, ignored by maps, and mocked by modern GPS. But now, it's back in the spotlight like an ancient diva rising from the deep, stone slabs and all. It appears to be a road at the bottom of the sea that is older than most human civilizations. While poking around a submerged Neolithic settlement, a team of researchers from the University of Zadar stumbled onto what you could describe as a Neolithic civil engineering flex. It was a 13-foot wide stone road, crafted from carefully stacked slabs like someone tried to build the Pacific Coast Highway 7,000 years early. This thing predates other prehistoric mysteries like Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids. You might think this road was a superhighway connecting now flooded settlements, but that's not looking like the case. It appears to lead straight to the mainland. Archaeologists think it was used in prehistoric times to reach an artificial island settlement. That's pretty cool. This discovery just keeps getting crazier. Who goes out of their way to build an island out of rocks? These people threw stones into the water until there were so many rocks that they created an island. Then the builders transported soil and dirt to create a comfortable surface. And then they connected their new island to the mainland with a bridge of stone. That bridge is now a road at the bottom of the sea. Scientists turned to radiocarbon dating on preserved bits of wood from the road to date the site. The result was straight from 4,900 BC. As the dig continued, archaeologists unearthed a stash of Neolithic tools such as blades and stone axes. But then, it got even weirder. The team started finding what they described as strange structures nearby. In Gradina Bay, they discovered another settlement that looked almost identical to the one connected to the sunken highway. So what does all of this mean? It means that 7,000 years ago, there was a very complex society living in Europe, and they weren't scared to build megalithic cities that practically floated on the water. That is some impressive engineering, especially considering that conventional wisdom once pictured these humans just squinting at the sun as they emerged from caves. Prehistoric humans weren't cave people at all. They were crafting roads, building islands, and laying the groundwork for connected communities. Ancient Egyptians in Australia. Somewhere deep in the Australian bush, carved into sandstone like a cosmic inside joke, scientists were squinting at Egyptian hieroglyphs. Wait, what? Egyptian hieroglyphs in Australia? not in Cairo, not in the Valley of the Kings. If history were a movie, this is where the screen would freeze and you would hear a record scratch, followed by the narrator going, "You're probably wondering how I got here." These hieroglyphs, known as the Gosford glyphs, have been blowing minds and frying scholarly circuits since they were first spotted in the early 1900s. There are over 250 stone carvings nestled in Brisbane Water National Park, and they have been fueling local legends for generations. According to people who have studied them up close, these glyphs are archaeologically accurate, as in they match ancient Egyptian writing styles so old and so obscure, many modern Egyptologists still struggle to read them. In other words, there is no way these glyphs were made by an amateur scammer. And seeing as they were found in the early 1900s, it's not like whoever created them copied them off the net. No, these are legitimate Egyptian hieroglyphs. The mystery is trying to figure out why they are in Australia of all places. To fully appreciate the implications of the Gosford glyphs, we need to consider another equally perplexing historical anomaly. So let's hitch a ride in my time machine back to 1992. A German scientist ran tests on a batch of Egyptian mummies. It was totally routine, except the tests came back showing traces of hashish, tobacco, and cocaine in the hair, skin, and bones of the mummies. Honestly, it was a pretty gnarly toxicology report even by modern standards, let alone 3,000-year-old standards. If people were doing drugs and smoking tobacco in ancient Egypt, that was their prerogative. I'm not here to judge. What I am here to do is ask how in the world they found tobacco and cocaine, seeing as both substances come from, well, you know where they come from, right? The Americas. The same Americas that supposedly weren't discovered by Europeans until 1492. So how did this stuff end up inside ancient mummies? Did an Egyptian pharaoh go on a secret sabbatical to the Caribbean? Or was ancient humanity way more connected than scientists have ever imagined? Come on, my friends. If a 5,000-year-old mummy turns up with drug residue from halfway around the planet, maybe it's time to stop assuming that ancient civilizations were clueless buffoons. These people were building pyramids with engineering skills modern people still don't fully understand. You think that boats were really beyond them? Back in Australia, the Gosford glyphs might be the smoking gun that the Egyptians belonged to a worldwide federation of merchants and colonizers. This could be irrefutable evidence that the world did not evolve like our history books told us in high school history class. Was Egypt the first nation to conquer the globe? Or were they just one gear in a massive globalized machine that went the way of the dodo? Let me know what you think in the comments and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. The original emoji conspiracy. Picture this. You're crawling through a pitch black cave a mile underground, flashlight flickering, knees bruised, heart racing. You're not chasing treasure or dodging booby traps like Indiana Jones. You're looking for symbols. Things like dots, lines, squiggles. Why? Because these little marks may be the world's oldest known communication system, and they are about to rewrite everything scientists thought they knew about human history. Again, welcome to the original emoji conspiracy. At the head of this recent investigation is Genevieve von Petzinger, paleoanthropologist and full-time cave-crawling badass. In 2007, while the rest of us were arguing on Facebook and posting grainy photos, she had a hunch. Genevieve thought maybe those weird symbols found next to cave paintings around the world weren't just doodles by bored cavemen. Maybe they meant something more. See, most people only know cave art as majestic mammoths and awkward stick figure hunters, and the occasional alien monstrosity painted in red ochre. But those drawings are often found surrounded by geometric signs, and Genevieve noticed something unique. Nobody had ever made a complete list of them. Not one. So what did she do? She made it her mission to catalog every single sign found in Ice Age Europe. Amazingly, it rewrote 40,000 years of human expression. She and her husband Dylan hit the road like prehistoric detectives, targeting the forgotten caves of France, Spain, Portugal, and Sicily. They found new, undocumented geometric signs at 75% of the sites they visited. 75%! That's like going to an old library and discovering the alphabet's been hiding new letters after Z. Across all sites, Genevieve identified 32 recurring signs. Recurring not just across sites, but across tens of thousands of years. Genevieve believes these 32 signs are distinct language, like a prehistoric font set. And then things really heated up when Genevieve looked outside Europe. She found the same 32 signs in Indonesia, Australia, and North America. It's like every ancient culture was subscribed to the same newsletter. Genevieve believes these symbols trace back to a common point of origin in Africa, the launchpad of humanity itself. Her theory is that before humans had writing, we had symbols. Before emojis, our ancestors were carving dots and squiggles on cave walls, and you had to know the code to get it. This is seemingly real evidence of a global connection that predates all known civilization. Humans appear to have had a shared language at one point. What do you think about all this? The Bronze Age Trade Network. Before empires rose and fell, one metal ruled them all. 3,000 years before the Brits were sipping tea and the Egyptians were building libraries, there was tin. Glorious, shiny tin. It's a material that we take for granted today, but in the ancient world, oh boy, tin was power. I've already told you that the world was more interconnected in the past than anyone ever thought, and now you're going to learn about the prehistoric global economy propped up by massive amounts of tin. Okay, so you had miners in Cornwall, England, down in the dank underground tunnels slowly digging out tin. Then they sold it to Sardinian sailors, who transported the tin to the pharaohs over in Egypt. It's not clear if any of them knew what they were doing, but looking back on it now, it's pretty obvious. They were developing the world's earliest known international commerce in 13th century BC. The Brits were the ones mining the tin, but it was the Nuragic civilization of Sardinia that was the real linchpin of the operation. This mysterious culture is notorious for their 10,000 plus stone complexes scattered across the island. They were some of the greatest megalith builders of the ancient world, but we don't know very much about them. Their religion, their ideals, politics, origins, all is a mystery. What scientists do know is that they loved bronze and were among the first people to master the craft. So how do you make bronze? You smash together copper and tin. Sardinia had copper in abundance, but tin, not so much. That came from one very soggy, very distant place. Like I said, it was mined in Cornwall. And that's how a rocky peninsula on the edge of Britain became the resource gold mine of a Bronze Age economy. Research has shown that Cornish tin made its way to Israel and Turkey 3,300 years ago, while shipwrecks off the coast of Devon have revealed full-on international freighter vibes. Cornish tin alongside Sardinian artifacts, Spanish goods, and even Danish amber. Stack all this evidence up and it is clear the Sardinians were logistical geniuses, running a pan-European delivery service. Raw materials from Scandinavia, Britain, and Iberia flowed into Sardinia's central hub, and from there, off to Cyprus, Crete, the Levant, and beyond. It was the FedEx of the late Bronze Age, but with horned warriors and terrifying boats, instead of tracking numbers and porch pirates. Today, thousands of Nuragic towers still dot Sardinia. They are massive stone ghosts from a civilization that practically defined Bronze Age globalization, but they barely get a footnote in your average textbook. It's only thanks to archaeologists from places like Durham, Gothenburg, Cagliari, Freiburg, and beyond that the Nuragic mysteries are starting to become mainstream. According to Dr. Sabatini, an expert on Bronze Age trade networks, this isn't just a Sardinian story either. It's a European one, starring miners from Cornwall, merchants from Denmark, and shipbuilders from Sardinia. The question is, how long did these civilizations, separated by such vast distances, know about each other? It's pretty cool, right? Let me know any thoughts you have in the comments. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!